We've got another keynote here, James Owens, the head of regulatory for Nuro. We're looking forward to hearing from you, James. I hope you're on, and we're looking forward to your comments.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you to the World Safety Summit for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I'm here to talk about a subject that's important to all of us, safety, and the way that technology can help save lives on our roads. But I also want to talk about something else, the way that the same technology can help us reimagine the automobile and generate tremendous benefits for equity, local commerce, jobs, and the environment. So first, let me set the scene. The invention of the automobile created amazing benefits. It helped vastly more people participate in the national and global economy, and prosperity no longer depended on where the local rail line happened to run. It also democratized personal freedom, the freedom to travel when and where you want, and greater freedom to choose where and how to live. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. Automobiles are massive and fast, and mistakes can be deadly. When Congress established the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in 1970, more than 50,000 Americans died in car crashes every year. Since then, thanks to safety promoting regulations and massive private investment in innovative technologies, cars have become much safer. The fatality rate dropped by 75%. That represents great progress. And fewer people are killed in crashes today than 50 years ago, despite there being many more cars on the road. But we still have a long way to go. NHTSA estimates that 38,680 people died on America's roads in 2020, and that another 20,120 people were killed in the first half of this year alone. That's unacceptable. Looking back, decade after decade, we saw tremendous advances in safety, and the fatality rate dropped every single decade by a substantial margin until about 10 years ago. Since then, there's been no sustained progress. And in fact, there's been some backsliding. We saw an 18% increase in fatalities in the first half of this year, and the worst fatality rate since 2006. So what happened? Did vehicles suddenly become less safe over the past year or so? Of course not. Today's vehicles are safer than ever. What we're seeing now involves the reckless and sometimes illegal decisions that people make behind the wheel: speeding, alcohol and drug impairment, and distraction. Alcohol and drug impairment rose during the pandemic. Studies suggest nearly 2/3 of drivers involved in fatal or near-fatal crashes had drugs or alcohol in their systems. Speeds were up too, with many states reporting significant increases in 90-mile-an-hour or higher speeding tickets. More speed, more impairment. Those sorts of reckless and illegal decisions are a recipe for more serious crashes, and that's exactly what we've seen over the past year or so. Unfortunately, the past 18 months is a microcosm of what we've really been seeing over the past decade. We are seeing diminishing real-world returns on safety investments, and that's because of human behavior. Better brakes, lighting, and ESC won't help avoid a crash if the driver is impaired or driving recklessly. And our crashworthiness protections are not very effective in high-speed collisions. So how do we turn things around? Well, we can and should continue to enforce traffic laws and conduct ad campaigns. But in a sense, we've plucked the low-hanging fruit for these safety measures, and that means we need something new to continue making progress. And right now, that means more automation. Already, we're seeing that advanced driver assistance technologies can help avoid crashes or reduce the seriousness of crashes that do occur. And there's significant ongoing work to develop passive alcohol detection technologies that could help reduce future DUIs. Those technologies help mitigate human mistakes. But the game changer will be technologies that can start to eliminate those mistakes altogether. And that's what we're going to need if we want to see the fatality rate continue to fall. The good news is we're investing heavily in making this happen. Today, billions of dollars are being spent on research and development for AVs, and many in this space anticipate significant real-world progress in the coming years. So long as the regulators don't inhibit the safe and responsible development and operation of these new technologies, we are hopeful that we may see thousands, even tens of thousands fewer fatalities year after year once AVs are widely deployed. And that would be amazing. That would mean fewer empty seats at the holiday dinner table. That would mean fewer grieving families and friends. That would mean fewer promising lives cut short. So I set the stage to demonstrate the urgency for developing autonomous technologies. Now let's turn to something else, the way in which these driverless technologies allow us to rethink the automobile, the ways in which we can have far-reaching benefits. Autonomous technologies allow us to envision a vehicle not only without a driver, but a vehicle without anybody inside. Such zero-occupant vehicles could transport goods to homes or warehouses. And over the past year and a half, we've all learned the value of delivery. At Nuro, we're building zero-occupant AVs that can drive down the cost of delivery. And in addition to improving safety, we believe this technology will also unlock tremendous benefits for equity, jobs, local commerce, and the environment. So first, let's start with safety. Zero-occupant vehicles would have a substantial safety benefit beyond that which AVs are generally expected to have. The best way to reduce the risk, the chance of being involved in a crash, is to eliminate your exposure to the risk. Zero-occupant vehicles allow goods to be transported without exposing families or drivers to roadway risk. Every mile driven by a zero-occupant vehicle could be one less mile of risk. A recent study by the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute suggests that zero-occupant vehicles could reduce the risk of death or injury in a crash by 60%. Supporting this, a study by the Steer Group suggests that a gradual ramp-up of AV delivery services could avoid more than 4,800 fatalities through 2035. Rethinking automobiles to create zero-occupant vehicles also presents developers with an additional opportunity. Because the vehicle does not need to protect its occupants, we can focus on protecting those outside the vehicle. This means that a zero-occupant vehicle can incorporate radical new technologies and designs that may enhance safety for pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. It also means that the software can operate the vehicle in a way that would be uncomfortable for human occupants, but such defensive maneuvers could further reduce the risk of a crash occurring. Next, let's talk about equity. While motor vehicles have democratized prosperity and provided many people with wonderful personal freedoms, we cannot forget that far too many people in our country have little or no access to personal transportation. And for far too many, it's hard to access fresh food and other basic amenities because of the circumstances of the neighborhood in which they live. For many, the difficulty of obtaining transportation and the distances they must travel means that just doing the weekly shopping can be a grueling all-day affair, and it can be uncomfortable and difficult to get an entire family's groceries home by taking the bus, or biking along unfriendly roads, or walking in neighborhoods with broken or missing sidewalks. So for people who have limited transportation options, and for those who live in food deserts, the option to have food and other amenities delivered to their home would be a tremendous boon. Last year, our analysis found that out of 20 million low-income Americans living in food deserts, delivery AVs can help improve food access for 14 million people. That's 7 out of 10. Less time spent traveling to obtain basic amenities means more time for leisure or other productive activities, and more options for healthier living for all of our fellow Americans. Zero-occupant vehicles could also support local commerce. Delivery service is expensive, and many small businesses with thin margins cannot afford to provide delivery service or they have to add charges. So unless things change, that means that local brick and mortar stores have a harder time competing. But zero occupant delivery vehicles can change that equation by sharply reducing the costs, and enterprises of all sizes would benefit from lower delivery costs. And that means that families would enjoy more opportunity to afford delivered goods from a wider variety of businesses. And being able to afford more delivery at less cost means that local businesses especially could benefit. A 2020 study by the Steer Group suggested that AV delivery services could generate more than $2 trillion in wider economic benefits by 2035. Rethinking the automobile can help revive our local businesses by bringing the downtown to everyone's homes. And that could help knit our communities back together again. And that leads us to the next advantage of rethinking the automobile: jobs. Jobs building the next generation of vehicles, jobs maintaining and operating those vehicles, and new jobs in retail and at local businesses. More delivery services at less cost means that businesses large and small will be selling more products to more people. And that means they will need to hire more workers. We expect these jobs to be well paid. The Steer study I mentioned earlier estimates that more than half of the economic impact of AV delivery services, more than $1 trillion by 2035, would be realized as higher wages for workers. And the delivery AV sector would create and sustain an average of 3.4 million jobs annually over that time. These aren't just Silicon Valley jobs. These are jobs across America, jobs in manufacturing, maintenance, retail, operations, and so forth. These are jobs in big cities and small towns, and jobs for a wide variety of skills. Finally, let's talk about the environment. Most AVs will be battery electric vehicles with no tailpipe emissions. Deliveries today are conducted with passenger vehicles for lighter products like restaurant meals, and larger medium-duty vans for heavier loads like groceries and parcels. Replacing those vehicles with battery-powered AVs would lead to far fewer criteria pollutant emissions. Steer estimates 236,000 fewer tons of NOx, that's nitrous oxides, and 8,000 fewer tons of PM2.5, as well as a reduction of more than 400 million tons of CO2. Most of those avoided emissions would have occurred in cities and neighborhoods, and this will help bring about cleaner air for communities that currently are experiencing environmental stress. Cleaner air means healthier families and healthier communities. Let me conclude by thanking each of you. Thank you to the sponsors and organizers of this event. And thanks to each of you for participating. We are in an exciting time, as today's panels have shown. We are in a revolutionary time for transportation. And the new technologies that we're all working on today have the potential to save many, many lives. And that's the most important thing. But they also have the potential to unlock other benefits and help make our future more prosperous, more equitable, and cleaner. Thank you all.
Thank you, James. Thank you. I really appreciate your remarks. And if you can bear with me one more moment, I'd like to just, again, Nuro, I think, has had some recent accomplishments and been on the track in Las Vegas and a few things in terms of the development. This vision becomes a little bit clearer, if you'd like to comment on that.
Absolutely. Well, we are, as we've announced, we have a facility that we're constructing right now in Las Vegas. We're expanding our operations. We're expanding the number of vehicles we're going to operate. We currently operate in Texas and California and Arizona, and we hope to expand that in the future as well. I think we, along with many other people in this AV community, see big things ahead in the coming years. And we're very excited to be in this position. And we've had great partners, both in the business community and in state and local government, to work with to help realize the vision that our founders have, which is to have robotics help improve everyday life.
Well, I appreciate you saying the word robotics, because that's a great segue right into our next conversation. So once again, thank you, James, and thank you to Nuro. Look forward to the future development. We'll be following along with all of that and the benefits that all ensures for the rest of us out here. So James, thanks again. We'll see you now.